You're listening to the One Day Advice podcast, where your hosts Nick Reilly and Paul Henderson are going to take you for a ride inside the world of personal finance. Together, we're going to give you a fully transparent, behind-the-scenes look into the financial services industry, helping you to optimize your financial life along the way.
Sitting here with Nick Reilly, the founder of One Day Advice and a client advisor. And we do a lot of talking about the industry and talking about experiences we have with clients, but we thought it would be fun to take a moment and just learn a little bit about the people behind the voices on this podcast. With that in mind, let's start with just some basic details. Nick, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from. Well, we talk about one day often. So, what would your one day look like?
I'm born and raised in Edmonds, Washington, so it's a town about 15 minutes north of Seattle. For those of you listening, not around the Pacific Northwest area, it's the first ferry terminal north of Seattle. So that's kind of the landmark for Edmonds. It's a little port town, great place to grow up. But as far as what I would do, and this is a question we often ask our clients, is if you had one day to spend however you want, how would you spend it? And
I'm turning the tables on you a little bit.
Kind of nice to, think about that for myself and what that means. And I think if I had one day to spend however I wanted to spend it, assuming there's no financial barriers to that, I would definitely be in the sun, on the water, ideally some lake house out there, some lake house I don't own yet, but being able to get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, jump in the lake, read for a bit, spend time with my family, go out, wakeboard, wake surf, spend time on the water. Maybe if I have some time and there's local mountain bike trails, just go out and hit the mountain bike track for a bit, and then just really spend the evening with those that are closest to me, my family and close friends, and playing games all night. I love playing board games and all sorts of card games and stuff. So, if I had one day, that's what I would do it. Spend it.
I like the draw of the water. If you're from outside of the Northwest, it might not make sense about ferry terminals, but I like your true Edmonds roots of we're measuring with ferry terminals, and then your best day is on the water. So there's definitely
absolutely. And I will say, Edmonds is on the saltwater, so the Puget Sound. I am much more of a freshwater person than I am a saltwater, and I know Paul.
We're going to part ways on that one a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to part ways, but I love the freshwater, and I love really jumping in all water, whether I'm out hiking or doing anything like that. So
I'm a little surprised that Edmonds didn't also bring up the Pancake House or bakery or things that stand out in my mind for as an outsider.
There's some nice little touristy things to do in Edmonds for sure.
Great. So that's your one day. Maybe it's a hard question, and we do that on purpose when we're talking with our clients to kind of get a sense of how they think and what's really important to them. But we all do lots of different things. I'm sure you left some stuff out there. So any other hobbies or things you like to do outside of work that maybe don't make that one day but are interesting about you?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the season, I love snowboarding, skiing. I do a little bit of both, so I grew up doing both, and it's kind of weather dependent. If it's very cold and I feel like bundling up, nothing better than being on skis and not having to get on your butt and strap in. So that's always nice. If it's icy, it's nice having two blades under your feet rather than one to slip and slide on. If it's powdery, there's nothing better than being on a snowboard, in my opinion, being able to go through the trees and go through fresh powder. So, love to do those things. And just being outside in the Pacific Northwest, there's so much to offer out here, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's the theme I'm getting outside and maybe in the sun if possible.
Exactly.
So I'll let you choose which way you want to go with this. The one question I'm always curious about is, if you weren't a financial planner, what would you be? And if that's not the direction you want to go, what about just how did you end up in the financial services industry, and kind of the background there, and what pulled you into it, kind of your thought process, or your history?
Yeah. So if I was not a financial planner today, I'd probably be, in some role related to uh, being a fitness coach or in nutrition. I kind of think of a chiropractor, and I know that might have a negative connotation for some, because there's all sorts of different types of chiropractors out there. Those who just crack your back versus those who may crack your back if necessary, but they'll focus more on your mobility and getting your muscles working in the correct manner. So growing up, I always had the goal. I loved basketball. I always wanted to dunk a basketball, and that was my focus in middle school, high school timeframe. So, of course, I would get online and read everything I needed to know about optimizing my approach to the hoop. The science behind what I need to eat at certain times of the day in my training, how to increase my production of ATP in my muscles to provide a greater output. I absolutely love the science behind fitness and how the body works. So if I wasn't a financial planner today, I'd probably be in some health fitness related type of work. But that's oftentimes also why I draw a lot of connections in the financial planning realm to the health and fitness industry as well. I look at ourselves as kind of physical trainers or fitness coaches, where we help people get financially fit here at One Day Advice, and from a physical training perspective, you might hire a trainer to nurse a certain aspect of your fitness back to where you want it to be, and you take that knowledge and run with it. And it's great to have that type of coach in your corner.
I've been in those conversations with you, so it's helpful to have a little bit of background on where that came from. Just, you left it out, and I don't want to drum up anything, bad memories, but did you ever dunk the basketball?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. You just left that
I did.
hanging there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember first time I dunked a tennis ball was end of 8th grade. And then freshman year of high school, it was a volleyball. And then sophomore year of high school, I finally got the full basketball in on a 10-foot regulation size hoop. And then my peak was probably my freshman year of college before I tore my hamstring and my LCL tendon. And it was, haven't been able to jump the same since. And that's
torn hamstring
why I'm
will
a
do
financial planner and not in the NBA.
That's the only reason.
The other obvious reasons.
That's great. So that interesting kind of background, and it ties together why you kind of often compare what we're doing to the physical training world. But what caused that push? What pulled you away from the physical training and really kind of caught you with financial planning? What was behind that?
So I was fortunate enough to have a dad who was a financial advisor. So he was kind of the original stockbroker back in the day. If anyone's watched The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, he was that guy going through the training, with Merrill Lynch back in the late 70s, early 80s, and he witnessed a lot of change through the industry where it moved from commission-based selling products to more advice-based and investment management type services, largely thanks to the Vanguards and Schwabs of the world. But anyways, I grew up with him, watching CNBC in the morning, getting ready for work. And I loved watching the news in the morning with him and watching CNBC, the latest stock picks, and watch all the ticker symbols go back and forth on the bottom of the screen. And I would create my own spreadsheets of tracking, where Apple was, or Microsoft, or Google, other names at the time too. And I was fascinated with investing at a very early age because of that. And it inspired me to want to be, I wanted to be a hedge fund manager out in New York or San Francisco because I love the investment side. But then I realized that I really enjoy working with the individuals behind the money rather than the money itself. And When you're working with money, it's a dollar sign, it's a figure, but you don't see the impact that it has on the individuals behind that money. And that's where financial planning really comes into play. Is you can make a direct impact on someone's personal life by helping them to optimize their financial life.
And did you feel like you saw that from watching your dad? Was that something that came, over time, either like during college years or as you entered the industry? When did you kind of have that aha moment?
Yeah, so I've had a few aha moments in looking back over my career. One being I was raised reading the Richest Man in Babylon book, the classic book that teaches you to pay yourself first, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, The Millionaire Next Door, all these kind of wealth building strategies and stuff. And I realized growing up that a lot of other people weren't reading those, and a lot of people didn't understand about certain aspects of personal finance. So it made me want to educate more and use that background that I had in a positive way. And I guess that's what kind of groomed me into the industry that I'm in today.
So I guess on that note, can you give us maybe an overview of your career story up to this point, where you kind of have the multiple aha moments. I know you're president of the investing club at Wazoo. You had kind of a multiple options coming out of college. Can you kind of track us through that experience and
Yeah.
what it looked like for you?
Yeah. So I'll start back in college. I pursued a finance degree, and I got involved with the uh, finance, real estate, insurance club, called it Fire Club, and ended up being the president of that for Washington State University there. And senior year, when it came time to looking through the job search and everything, of course, I got recruited by all the typical college recruiting firms in the financial services industry, like Northwestern Mutual, Fisher Investments, Edward Jones, and others. The ones that largely prey off of the fresh graduates. And I can speak to just those interviews, understanding a little bit more about the industry than their typical, I guess, interview candidate, because I understood the industry as a whole. And Northwestern Mutual specifically, I knew they wanted my Rolodex, my contacts, my personal contacts. If I didn't make it there, they would own that moving forward, and that was enough value for them to interview me through that process. Fisher Investments, they wined and dined me. There was a group of, I believe, 10 to 12 of us that they flew on a regional plane from Pullman, Washington, where I went to college, to Camas, Washington, which is outside of Portland. They put us up in a nice hotel. They gave us a daily stipend to spend on restaurants and stuff. They really wined and dined us, and it gave me an inside look into the culture of Fisher Investments and how how much they charge or overcharge the investor, and they're really more of a marketing firm than they are an investment firm, to be honest. Ken Fisher, the founder, he's done a phenomenal job of getting the word out there. And then I look at Edward Jones, being recruited by them, knocking on doors, their whole concept there. I just felt like all those places wanted me to sell their specific products and proprietary services. And I didn't feel good taking in any of those jobs. So I ended up joining my dad at the time. He was at Wells Fargo Advisors, which through a series of buyouts from the financial crisis, it used to be A.G. Edwards, and Wachovia bought them out. And then Wells Fargo bought Wachovia. So my dad was at Wells Fargo Advisors at the time. And, he was in the later stage of his career and had his own book of clients and everything, but wanted me to build my own book of clients as well. So here I am, fresh out of college, trying to talk to retirees, pre-retirees about their money, and have them place their trust in me, the recent college grad, in providing them with the solutions that they needed to retire on their own terms. And I went through the whole training program there, and quickly discovered how similar it was to the other companies that I mentioned, and many other companies in the industry at the time too, where it was so much product focused. In order to keep my salary, I had to keep a certain quota. In order to hit quota, I had to sell the larger commission products, which oftentimes were the annuities, the A share mutual funds that provide like a high upfront commission to the advisor, and ultimately are just buried in fees for the client. And I did that once in order to hit quota, and I felt horrible about myself. And I knew from that point onward that I wasn't going to go down that route on the brokerage side. So I transitioned to the independent registered investment advisory world. I went to a large regional firm here in the Seattle, Bellevue area. Worked there for a few years, and really got great experience just working on financial planning, using my certified financial planner designation that I had gotten while I was at after I'd graduated college. And it was great to be able to work with ultra high net worth clients that had more money than they knew what to do with, in a sense, and try to figure out ways to optimize their financial situation as a legacy to be able to pass on to their kids and their grandkids and stuff. So
How was that culture shock going
yeah,
from
it was
one world to
definitely
the other?
yeah, it was definitely a culture shock going into, from the brokerage side being, I guess fee based, which allowed me to sell commission products, but also do fee only work. So I was kind of a hybrid in a hybrid position there, to the RIA side, where the only way that they charge clients was on a flat percentage fee on the assets that they managed. And that was roughly around 1% of assets at the firm that I worked with. And I learned a lot from there. It was definitely a big culture shift, more towards a focus of the client themselves. But of course, I started to discover things that I felt like could improve the client experience, or there's things that could be better. And I felt like the financial services was so stuck in the Stone Age,
I've never heard
for
anyone say that before.
lack of a better way of putting it. They just weren't using technology to better serve their clients. And there's just so many systems and processes that they had in place that were super clunky. It created easy holes in the service model where you would forget certain things to do for your clients because they weren't using simple technology that was available to kind of correct that human error aspect. So I wanted to start my own firm at that point, and so I transitioned from that into One Day Advice.
Great. And I think there's probably a fair amount to unpack on the One Day Advice side about how we use technology, how we are trying to. I think it's not too crazy to say revolutionize the RIA world, and make sure that more people can get fiduciary advice than ever before. I'll leave that though for the time being, because I think we want to focus on you, and maybe tell me a little bit about your vision for the future. So we know where you are now, we know kind of how you got here. Where are you going? What's next? What's your what lights your fire and gets you up in the morning to improve?
Yeah. So I think what gets me fired up is the aspect that if you had one day, going back to that whole concept, you notice that I didn't mention anything about looking through my balance sheet and running through financials, using the data to invest and buy in stocks. If most people were given the chance, they wouldn't spend their day working on their financials. And that being said, I think personal finance is interwoven into all the other aspects of your life. And I look at the main pillars of your life being your health, your relationships, both spiritual and personal relationships with family and friends and all that, and then you have the financial side of your life as well. And Finances, for instance, are the number one cause for divorce. And, if you don't have, proper health financially, you might not treat yourself in a good way from a physical health perspective. And you might not, it just impacts your life in so many other ways. So that's where I see financial planning evolving, is towards more of a financial life planning approach, where advisors are, kind of evolving towards more career coaches, more life coaches, but also taking an angle of how to optimize their clients' financial life in order to get the most out of other aspects of their life. And so we at One Day Advice take the approach from the financial side, but we definitely have conversations that seep into other aspects of our clients' lives to make sure that we can have a lasting impact.
I think that's a great summary of what we do, and I think I definitely agree. Just in my own experience, that I can see the shift in the industry towards that direction, and there's sometimes people fall back on this as an excuse. It's an art, not just a science for financial planning, but I'm a firm believer of once you understand the science, then that frees you to practice the art. And
Yeah.
both are important. You can't just skip right to the advice and coaching, but you need to put in the time and learning first, and then you can really, I think, blossom as a practice, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I look at, technology. So I brought up technology a bit in some of my frustration around the industry today. And I'm passionate about technology really disrupting the industry today. You have the robo advisors out there that offer a lower cost investment management service that's automated, does tax loss harvesting, all things that an advisor can do, at a cheaper cost, but they don't address the deep need around the financial planning side. So I've always used the analogy I love the movie Iron Man. I love the comic Iron Man, and Tony Stark is a genius. Robert Downey Jr. played him perfectly, but in by himself, he was a very, very smart guy, and he built the Iron Man suit. And as soon as he steps into that suit, he becomes Iron Man. So he becomes a better version of himself because of technology. And that's where I'd like to kind of imagine myself each morning stepping into that Iron Man suit, using the technology that we have today to better serve our clients and do so in a way that can help them live a more fulfilling life. So I think we at One Day Advice just really grasp technology, and because we're a smaller regional firm, we can be more agile in adopting the wonderful solutions that are coming about in the fintech side. So I love following that, and technology allows us to compete against the larger firms like the Northwestern Mutuals and Fisher Investments, Edward Jones of the world, Merrill Lynch, UBS, you name it. We can compete against those types of companies because we are able to reduce our overhead significantly by the use of technology. And that allows us to pass the cost savings on to our clients and provide a lower cost solution with much more value attached to that, because they're speaking with a certified financial planner who understands them, understands the context of their financial life in general, and can help them optimize moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. I fully agree. I just envisioned it's easier to turn a little ski boat than it is a freighter. And I look at our firm, our smaller people like us are just able to respond in a everyone's floating, but only some are able to go really the direction that they need to go at a moment's notice. Anything else that you think a listener wants or should know about you, or should we call it time for now?
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about the industry in general, and I know we'll have episodes on that. I guess just real quick, one question I get asked quite a bit is why One Day Advice, and why what inspired the name. And I a lot of people think of it as like one a day advice, or the vitamin company and other aspects. But I look at One Day Advice as kind of a dual meaning, where like if you do the right things each and every day, you will one day have what you set out to achieve. So it's both living in the present with that one day that you have. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's a matter of how we utilize that time. So using that in a productive way will help you get to that future one day state that you're trying to get out and achieve by taking those small steps and small actions each day. So that's kind of the premise of One Day Advice, and we look forward to being able to work with more people. And we are educators at heart, and we lead with education and love to create a more financially literate generation, both our generation and the generations after us as well.
Well, I think we'll leave it here. Thanks for putting up with some questions and kind of diving into your past. And as we end every episode, we'll always invite people, any listeners, to reach out with questions. Never hesitate to shoot us an email. Let us know if you have particular questions that you want to know about us or the firm, what we do, anything like that. We're always available and happy to talk.
Hi, I'm Nick Reilly, the founder of One Day Advice. If you like what you've heard, we'd greatly appreciate your help in spreading the word. After all, we are financial educators, not marketers. Thanks for listening, and remember to leave us a review.
Nick Reilly is the founder of One Day Advice, an independent registered investment advisor. Paul Henderson is the director of financial planning at One Day Advice. Both Nick and Paul serve as wealth advisors to their clients. All opinions expressed by Nick, Paul, and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of One Day Advice. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment or financial decisions.